Hey there, are you ready to build a fitness business that becomes a true income producing asset? Then I welcome you to the Fitness Business Freedom Show, brought to you by Fitness Revolution. I am your host, Justin Hanover, and we have over 15 years of experience building thriving fitness businesses, and we are committed to sharing our knowledge and expertise with you. You can expect to hear proven business foundations and frameworks, success stories from our coaching partners, and guest experts to give you straight answers for your biggest questions. It doesn't matter if you have an online business, fitness facility, or operate as an independent trainer, you are in the right place to grow your business and create the personal freedom you desire. Welcome to today's episode. I'm your host, Justin Hanover, success coach with Fitness Revolution. Now, before we dive in and bring on today's guest, I want to share a little bit about what you can expect to hear and who I have joining us today. So, with that being said, today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dylan Martinsen. And Dylan is a modern Renaissance man and the genuine copywriter. Growing up, he struggled to find his own voice and what he wanted to be. He explored theater, martial arts, then creative writing. Through the process of finding his genuine self, he developed a method that helps brands find their true voice. He focuses on helping bold brands who give a damn create genuine marketing campaigns through authentic messaging. In this episode, Dylan broke down effective copywriting and how it drives your business. It doesn't matter how good your service is if you can't get the right message out to the right people. If copywriting is an area you are looking to improve, then you found the right episode. So let's go ahead and get this conversation going and bring Dylan on. Today's episode is brought to you by Fitness Revolution. So you started your fitness business and you've been in the game now for a few years. You might have even seen some good growth over those years, but now you feel stuck. You feel like the momentum you once had just isn't there and you don't know how to get it back. Should you be focusing on your marketing, your sales, your team? What is the next bottleneck to focus on that will allow you to break the chains holding you back? That is a great question. And one of the biggest skills as an owner is to be able to understand and identify the next biggest issue to keep your business moving forward. And that is exactly why Fitness Revolution has created our proprietary needs assessment to allow you to quickly see where your business stacks up and receive immediate feedback on what to focus on next. It's a quick 10-question assessment that will be able to provide valuable feedback to get past sticking points and hit your next goal. Whether you are stuck, feeling frustrated with your current progress, or want to dial in what's currently working, this assessment is the best next step to making that happen. I invite you to head over to the show notes where a direct link to our needs assessment will be, so you can easily access it there. Now, let's jump into today's show. Dylan, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share it with us gym owners and helping us grow.
Yeah, for sure, Justin. I'm really excited to be here, and I love sharing as much as I can when I can.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's about. It's definitely not about keeping things to yourself. So I thought it would be appropriate to give our listeners kind of like that 1,000-foot view of how you became a word crafting expert.
Yeah, man. It was definitely a journey. I didn't, pop out and was like, oh, I'm going to be a copywriter. Some people kind of have that path laid out and they play piano their whole life, and that's just kind of it for them. I was always creative growing up, music, things like that, but also like really involved in my own health and fitness and things like that. So when I graduated high school, I went to school for massage therapy, and I was living out in Arizona. And through the massage school, I started getting into martial arts, Chinese martial arts, Kung Fu and Qigong meditation. So also like the really like spiritual aspect of it. And I mean, like we were doing like crazy training. Like we were like, knuckle push-ups in gravel and like swimming in freezing cold water, like, like really intense stuff. To just, yeah, like, process things like emotionally and, build the body strength up and things like that. But out of all of that, I started doing a lot of writing, just like a lot of creative writing and, poetry and fiction and that kind of stuff. And that brought me to eventually do a BFA in English and writing, which was just like a lot of creative writing, a lot of academic writing, but also like professional writing and things like that.
Hmm.
And I didn't really have an intention with that. Like I rolled out of that program and I was like, okay, how do I make money as a writer? And there wasn't a clear answer. So I went back to doing massage. I became the lead massage therapist at a resort spa. And, you know, I was doing that and I was kind of tasked with creating this menu for our enhancements. And our enhancements were like hot oil, hot stone, CBD. So my idea was like, let's hand out this menu in the beginning of our services because people weren't really getting the enhancements. So I was like, have the massage therapist start handing that out. And it was my first time that I was like using my writing, but then also like a little kind of just like strategy of like, okay, well, if they're not, getting this off the website or they're not booking it in when they call, like, let's, hit it with them as like, an add-on that they can do right before the service. And it was crazy. I was actually like blown away by the impact. It was like, we were doing maybe a couple $1,000s in sales for enhancements. And then all of a sudden we were like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month in enhancement sales. The massage therapists were getting an extra commission. So they're making $300, $400 extra a month. Like it was like, I was like, this is crazy. Like what is this magic, So that's kind of when I went down the copywriting rabbit hole and started learning and getting into marketing. And, with my, health and kind of wellness background, I was like, always like, oh, marketing and sales is like, that's like slimy and evil and stuff like that. But as I got into it, I just saw it as like a way to connect people to products. And it's really like about how you're doing that, less about what sales and marketing actually is, because there's two ways to do it. You can be slimy or you can just be real.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's a good point because that's something that a lot of gym owners battle with is that like they're so scared to come across like through the business side and feel like they have to almost be like these martyrs of like just helping everybody for free type of thing, or they immediately think there's something sleazy about them if they have to charge for what they're doing. And I think like that's a good point what you said. Like yeah, you have those two channels you can either be the sleazy or you can be the real and authentic. And I think it's important to remember that like the only way we combat the sleazy and the bad is by having more real and authentic people in the space and in business. So I think that's is something to not take lightly and like to not let that overcome you because like people are being sold every day on things, and if more good people aren't getting into it because of the bad people, well, then more people are sold bad things. So I think that's cool, and it's pretty wild that you got into this through success. Like that's definitely not the norm track pattern of how people start out in things. Is not usually seeing success around it. It's usually just an idea.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it was just kind of like haphazard and like I was part of their business and they're like, oh yeah, do that. That sounds like a good idea. And I really wasn't really thinking like, oh, okay, I know how we're going to, increase sales. Cause, I also came from a massage background and you really can't get massage therapists to sell anything, but I mean, that was part of the struggle too, is just getting massage therapists to offer the menu. But once they did, and, that was one of the things that I trained them on. I'm like, don't go I think this is important, is like, don't go in the other person's pocket. That's like, it's none of your business how much money they have, what they want to spend. Your goal is to offer them something that's going to benefit them. And really, like, it kind of goes into my marketing and, writing strategy and philosophy is that, like, we're just here to connect people to products. It's really simple. We're not forcing people into anything. We're not conning them into anything. And by just creating the connection is like you're communicating that connection through writing, So it's like, what are all the pieces? What are all the things that the customer needs to know to buy your product. Like it can be that simple, you know? And we get into this thing of like, oh man, I gotta, do this like sales script, or I gotta write this in a certain way, or, I have to use these pain points, or, and pain points are like touching for people, because I guess not everyone would know that term, but like pain points is like things that like are, that people have pain around, so it might be like, you're a heavier person, you want to lose weight, or you're a skinnier person, you want to build muscle. And anytime that, you talk about that or that comes up, it's like, it doesn't make you feel good. So there's a lot of, writers and marketers that focus on that, is like focus on the pain point, focus on, what people's fear are, and then, offer the product as a solution to that.
Yeah, it's definitely a different perspective, which we'll, definitely get more into your perspective versus other ways of going about it. But that is, I think that's a good point. I'm happy to have you on, talking about this different way to go about it, because I think that is too much the focal point and too much the main thing that we see out there of people like, oh, what's the pain? Focus on the pain, drill on the pain. And it's like, I think that makes people feel good, because that doesn't make people feel good. Like focusing on something that obviously triggers a negative emotion. And that's, I think that just keeps that vicious cycle going of thinking like you're sleazy or something. So I think this is going to be a good discussion for people to take in, especially if you're one of those people that is battling in your head of feeling sleazy. I think you're going to come away from this conversation feeling more refreshed and have a better approach of how to align your service with the right people. Have you? Do you know Jay Abraham?
No, I don't.
Okay, I was just curious because he's a pretty big marketer, and he has a very similar type of approach that he preaches of just educating people on what you do, and just not assuming people know. And he's like that. It's so simple, but he's explained it where we're so adapt to talking at a level 7 or an 8 when our clients are at a level 2, and we just assume that everyone knows what the process is to work with us, a type of thing. So that was interesting when you said that. It just made me think of him. So I didn't know if you had any interactions with him. But I thought it'd be appropriate for us to start first with kind of stripping away of what isn't helping people. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that especially business, they think they're copywriters because they do some social media content or something like that, but they're really not getting the result that they're looking for. So at the end of the day, obviously it's not working. And what are some the biggest mistakes that you've seen and come across with people with how they manage their own copywriting?
Yeah, I think the root is really the first step is understanding your customer, I think, and really dialing in, your ideal customer avatar. Without that, you're really lost. You're just kind of, you're just throwing things in the dark. And I think the process of that, I think a lot of people fear away from that because, well, if I niche down to this very specific avatar, then I'm going to have less of a customer base. And I just don't, especially with, the digital world and the internet, we have access to such a massive amount of people that I think the best way to actually have a more successful business and bring more people in is by, niching down to this certain specific group. And then once you do that, then your writing becomes really specific because you understand who you're speaking to. If you're just talking to, everyone that wants to lose weight, you're going to be going in all these different directions. Maybe sometimes you're going to be writing to 45-year-old women that want to lose weight. Sometimes you're going to be talking to, 22-year-old guys that want to lose weight. And you're going to go in all these different directions, and then your messaging is going to be unclear. You want people to come on your website or read your email and know it's for them, so that you have a bunch of 45-year-old women that want to lose weight, or a bunch of 22-year-old guys that want to lose weight, whatever it is, like that's your messaging. And then when they read it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is for me. This person is for me. So I think that's the biggest thing that I see as a disconnect in the beginning.
That makes sense. And I know from obviously a standpoint of like a coaching perspective and working with like gym owners, like that is a massive issue of people so afraid to like have a specific niche that they focus on. And I would say now with how things evolved in business, it's almost like a requirement. Like it's no longer, I think like 10, 15 years ago, you could have got away with being more of a generalist. But now with how hyper competitive everything is, I think it's almost like you can't operate or get to the level that you need to get to without having a clear voice on what that is. Yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think also that comes from passion too. Like you don't want to discount your passion. You don't want to, work for a specific group because like, you read a bunch of stuff on the internet saying like, oh, this, niche is really hot. Like, and, everyone's buying, and this is like, you want to, because you're not going to be excited about it. You're not going to be passionate about it. And then you're going to be bringing in clients that maybe you don't want to work with, whether it's virtual or, in your physical space. You want to be passionate about exactly what you do and the people you work with, because that's going to kind of fuel you to always move forward in your business. If you're not excited about the people you work with, then it's going to be really hard to get up and, do all the different things you have to do as a business owner. So I think that's kind of what I advise people too, is like, especially when they're in the beginning of their business, is like, well, what is the thing that you're most passionate about? All right, now let's take that and then start looking for how you're going to position it in the market. And I think people we're so like, can be, so negative towards ourselves that we're like, oh, well, no one's going to want the thing that I have, and it's like, well, if you're a human being and you like it, there's got to be other humans out there that like it.
Yeah. I don't know, but there's some weird things out there. So, but no, that is so true. Because I mean, you see it all the time, even in different spaces. You see like these you look at these like some ridiculous businesses that exist, but there's enough people that want it that validate it. I mean, it's great. I mean, I think a perfect one that everyone laughs about is like like a chia pet. Like it's like the most nonsensical thing. I mean, like why would anybody ever want that? But there's people that do, and something like that. Obviously, it's the novelty thing of it too. But I mean, I think that's just a good example of. I mean, you as someone who had that idea, I mean, you can easily be like, no, that's ridiculous. Why would anybody want that? But that person was like, no, I'm going through with this. It's like, so it's so true. And even it's just actually a client of ours that I was talking to, her main thing she specializes in was with special needs population, and most people wouldn't see that as a viable like clientele source, but it's really blown up her business, and now to the point where she's coming out with certification courses to teach other trainers how to do it. And that never was the intention of when she started her business. So, and for you guys listening, I mean, that's where don't discredit something just because of like some temporary fear, basically.
Yeah, for sure. That's really amazing. And I think that, it takes courage to go out there, and, chase the thing that you're passionate about. And we kind of sometimes want to mimic what's already existing, but it's like, well, why don't you be that person? Like if it doesn't exist right now, why don't you be that, gym or trainer that works with special needs people? Because now you become the ultimate authority in that group. Now she's offering the certification. Now anyone that wants to, do that, I mean, the world is so big, but like essentially anyone that wants to do that has to go through her or is going to go through her training program. And that's just
Yeah.
super powerful. And it's coming from a place of like, she's like, these are the people I want to help. So I
Yeah.
think those two things are important, you know?
Absolutely. I think that's a good segue into the next part of like kind of bringing back to your style of how you go about writing your content with your genuine marketing. Um, so could you just elaborate on that a little bit more of explaining exactly what that is and obviously how it differs from other common approaches of copywriting?
Yeah, for sure. So my copywriting, like, I was trained by, traditional copywriters and a lot of like newer copywriters that are using, story and more value driven copy. Um, and so my approach is just to use less of pain points and less of, exciting those negative emotions, and then, positioning the product at, or the membership or whatever it is, as the solution. And really what I focus on is like, well, how can we just offer value to people? How can we just give away everything? And then on top of that is, how do we bring our customers into our company? So something that I like to do, specifically with email copywriting, that's kind of like, that is my specialty. Even though I write, in a lot of different forms, but I really love email because we have the ability to bring people into our world. Email doesn't have to be just every time you want to send out a coupon. And I think a lot of people resort to that because they don't know what to say. And
Yeah.
there's so much that you can say in emails. And my goal with that is like, well, let's create a real relationship. Let's create a genuine relationship by letting you into the company. What's this personal trainer doing in the gym? Let's talk about them. Let's talk about a conversation we had with them the other day, and talk about that in an email. And, we had our staff party, and here's a photo of our staff party. And, we're excited to do whatever it is, but really bringing people into the company, because who are you going to buy from? Are you going to buy from some stranger, or are you going to buy from people that feel like your friends?
Yeah.
And it's not like a fake friendship, but it's like, you're not like faking it, because you really are being open and honest and vulnerable and letting them into the world of your company. And I think that's really important. I think people want that more. I think the metric is something like, we see 3,000 to 5,000 ads per day on
Wow.
average,
Really?
which is like insane. Like,
That
but
is
I mean,
insane.
we're just scrolling through Facebook and Instagram for hours, and we're seeing all of these advertisements. And it wasn't like that probably not even 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think we're fatigued from that, and we want companies that we work with to have a personal relationship. We want them to feel like friends. We don't want, the big box coming in, giving us something that looks like an ad. So I think that's the most important thing, is making your advertisements look like you're just a friend, especially with email. So it's like a letter instead of,
Yeah.
Here's 20% coupon.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And while you're describing that, it made me think of like how obviously that ties into like the biggest social media profiles out there aren't brands, like businesses itself, they're people. And they're showing behind the scenes of their life. So it's like people feel like they're part of that person's life. Like, and that's why they want to follow them. Not because, like you said, they're pitching something every time they post something. Whereas like I see that with like, especially like what I do with how I engage with gym owners, like I'm looking at their social profiles and stuff like that. And I see a lot of them like where they're just posting like basically flyers in their social content. And it's like, why would that make somebody want to engage with you, or want to interact with you? So I like how you're correlating that to like kind of everything that you do, basically, type of thing, and taking that perspective of what's actually going to establish and build a relationship. Like how does it make people feel something, type of thing, rather than like just hiding behind a logo and having it be this kind of a corporate feel to it.
Yeah, totally. And I think people do that because they don't know what to say. And they also feel like what they have to say isn't important enough, just in
Mm,
general, not just in their business, but in their life. Like that's how they interact, is like, well, I don't really matter. I don't really make a difference. So whatever I have to say isn't going to make a difference for people. And then they go into their business and then do their marketing. And like you said, they're hiding behind that logo. They're hiding behind that 20% off coupon because they don't know all the different ways that they can offer value. And, I have a background in, story and writing creatively. So like, you mean, like people are watching like 7, 8 hours of Netflix of like one episode or one TV show, just like
yeah,
binging through it, right? Like,
yeah.
okay, so what's powerful there? What's powerful is story. People want to know what's going on. So it's
Hmm.
like we can transfer that directly into email and make, like, what if the email channel becomes the sitcom that you can't wait to tune into because, oh, so and so in the business did this last week, and you start injecting story into it and people become really interested because that's how we interpret our reality, and that's how we understand things, is through
Yeah.
story. Um, so it's like more about creating entertainment, but then also, like in the Truman Show,
Hmm. Yeah.
there's that scene where Jim Carrey's fighting with her, and then she turns around and like offers the product. That's what I'm talking about. Like, let's make email that. Let's make
Yeah.
it like, all right, this is this, show where we know everyone from the company and how they're interacting, and they're all these really cool people, and then every once in a while it says, hey, if you want to join in on this, and if you want to become a member here, you want to do this with us, that's an option. And then going into describing that option and how it works, and all those different things to remove any unknown things about what you do.
Mm. Yeah, no, I like that, and then it's something that I think this type of industry has a unique perspective on, and should be and could be utilizing that avenue obviously a lot better, because I mean, I would say it's most people like don't start a fitness business because like they're already well established entrepreneurs and see owning a gym as like their next venture. They start a fitness business because they either went through a big life change themselves, or like they're passionate about it, they help somebody go through a life change and it inspired them to want to do it with more people. So I mean, there's a story behind why they even started their business. uh, so it's interesting how we get away from that. And then we don't want to share that, almost like we almost have to like feel like we have to, it's almost like we're trying to share, like sell to our peers rather than to our actual clients. And look a certain level of prestige to our peers, rather than the people that we're actually helping.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. I think there's this like level of stuffiness and like um, just like general like inhibition when it comes to how we market and how we talk about what we do. It's like
Mm,
we take the humanity out of it, and we're like, oh well, this is a business to make money. And
yeah.
I like to think that maybe that's shifting because of the internet, that people have more access, and that the only way to thrive in that space is by being super niche and also super real. People want real people. So I think that we're headed in a direction where it's like, well, you have to be honest about who you are because that's what people want. We can throw away the stuffy business stuff and the logo and the 20% off and look how cool and awesome we are, and we can just be like, hey, I'm here to help. I'm another human being.
Mm,
Um, and that's what I try to always kind of talk to business owners about, and also put in my in how I help them market their business.
yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. So you would say then it's more about intertwining a personal brand within the brand.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even people are like afraid to do, like, say if a gym owner, they have, whatever the name is, right? Like their email should be sent from them. It
Mm,
should be sent from the business owner, even if, they're not the one managing the account or whatever it is. Like it should be sent from them because then you're developing that relationship, not support at,
Yeah.
coolgym.com, whatever,
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. So I'm just curious too, like, and maybe you've come across like this, like with clients that you've worked with. What about the scenario where, say, a particular business owner doesn't want to necessarily be the face of the business, but understands obviously that like there needs to be a deeper connection there. Like, how do they go about like implementing this type of approach, if, like I said, like they don't necessarily want to be the face of the business?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that comes across in the writing. Like, if you're going on someone's website, like essentially, a website is a tool for communication. You're communicating things. So it would just be like someone talking or writing. So you want that to come across as really conversational, and actually it could be funny or it could be interesting. It doesn't have to be like, we at this business serve these people and da 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 da. Like it'd be like,
Yeah.
hey, welcome to this thing. We're gonna, 10x your results and we're gonna have a great time doing it. And like it can be more conversational. So I think that's one way to do it with website. And then also for like email, like if, the owner didn't want to be the, sending account, you could use a staff member or you could create a persona, you know,
Mm.
it could be, like Jenny at, coolgym.com, and you could create a persona of a person that, sends out these emails every day. I think that works for bigger companies where it's like, maybe aren't in a physical space and they're like, hey, where's Jenny at? It might work for bigger companies, maybe not necessarily in the gym, but
Yeah.
I think I think I think people are okay with that, and I've seen people be okay with that because we're used to fictional characters, we're used to story, we're used to something fun and interesting.
Mm.
Does that answer
No,
the question?
yeah, no, definitely. I think that, no, it definitely did, because it's true. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be the owner themselves, uh, but I would still agree that like overall this approach is the better approach and like is needed, to be integrated, um, into your style. Otherwise, like you just become like a regurgitation what everyone else is saying, and it's like, how do people know to work with you? I mean, they don't. I mean, you're now like forcing them to choose based off of price, and maybe if they just happen to like you better, and that's obviously not a good business model. um,
Yeah, totally. And I think also the biggest thing is that people have their walls up. Everyone has their walls up. So
mm,
are you going to be the one that tears the walls down, and you're going to be the open and vulnerable and honest one, and then you're going to bring in people that in if you have your wall up as a business and you're just logos and coupons and things like that and you're stuffy, like people are going to come to you with their walls up because they
yeah.
don't know who you are. How are they going to trust you? All these different things. As soon as you start being open, honest, vulnerable, and real about what you do and who you are and the stories that, of where your business came from, then people come in and they're like, they already feel like they know you. They're ready for
Mm,
that sales conversation. They're like, oh, I know Joe, Joe, and, so and so, the other trainer had, they shared a joke the other day that we
yeah.
talked about that I read in the email, and then they show up for that sales conversation. They're like, yo, what's up? I'm ready to buy your stuff, because they feel like they're a part of it and they feel like they know they're connected already, So
Mm,
I think that's the biggest thing is like the more open that you can be as a business owner in your communications, in your writing, and it doesn't take any special skills. I think a lot of you know gyms or maybe smaller gyms can manage their own email list and things like that. It's just learning how to tell stories that are important and interesting and open, and just being yourself, because you're going to also bring in the people that you want to work with by doing that are also open and vulnerable and cool and down to earth.
yeah. No, definitely. So I wonder if we can like go a little more tactical with that then. Of, it's like I know you have, like an email conversion checklist, that helps people with crafting like an email every time. So maybe you can share like kind of a few points to that process, and then we'll also definitely be sure to have that in our show notes. So if you want to grab that, you'll be able to access that there as well. But I thought it'd be great for you to hit on that a little bit and kind of share some like tactics behind the theory.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's a few parts that you need in every email, and I'll just kind of walk through them of the things that you want to make sure that are there. And if they're not there, then you're going to have a little some problems. So um, the first thing is your subject line. Your subject line is going to show the text that's going to show up in the inbox. And the most important thing about this is that it's curiosity driven. It doesn't necessarily, a lot of times you see in your promo box, you see all these coupons, 20% off, and these like alert signs, like the deal is ending today. Like,
Yeah.
we don't need to do that. So you want to have it be curiosity driven. You want to know your customer. Maybe you ask a question. Maybe you say, did you check out these 5 ways to get, this result? And then that creates curiosity and has people click in. Once they click into the email, you're going to want to address them personally. Most email software providers have, personalized merge fields which are just like, first name, last name, things like that. So you want to say, hey, first name, so when the person reads the email, it's like, hey, Joe. So it's like, it turns into kind of, like a personal letter. And I think we've all seen that. Like that's a lot of, plain text emails read like that. And then you're going to want to tell a story right in the beginning. You're going to tell a personal story. You could do a historical story. You can use a metaphor, things like that, things that are going to draw them in, that, things that, your prospect is interested in. So that's going to be kind of the first section of the email. And then the next part is where you kind of turn that into, how do you tell a story about what's going on at the gym? That's like, oh, this personal trainer has been working with this person and, they've gained, X amount of muscle mass and things like that. They've built themselves up in this way. And then there's this portion in the email that it's called the turn. It's where everything switches. And it's like, well, if you're looking for these same types of results, why don't you check out, schedule a call here? And then that's the call to action. Like you want to have the call to action, and usually like one call to action per email. Like you don't want to be like, well, check out, all these different things that we can do for you, and confuse them. You want to be very like straight all the way through, where it's like you're presenting a story, maybe you're presenting a problem. And then you're, turning that into a call to action, and that's it. This way, it's like everyone knows what the email is there for, what we're talking about. We're talking about one topic all the way through down to the call to action, and then that's it. And they can take action or they cannot. And, I think email just takes time. Like, it takes 6 months for most buyers to buy on an email list. So I think that's important metric.
Would that be based on a list that's already been engaged, or like, because I know a lot of people have lists and they're just not doing anything with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to, there's re-engagement sequences that you can do that are kind of like, hey, sorry, we haven't been in touch, because you want to bridge that gap and let them know and say, hey, are you still interested in learning about, what we have to offer at the gym, and, take it from there. But that 6 month for fresh leads coming in, right, that you're nurturing, it can be up to 6 months. So there's people at the top in like 5 to 10% that are going to buy right off the bat. They're going to go through your funnel. They're going to check out your lead magnet, and they're like, cool, this is exactly for me. And they're going to buy right off the bat. But then those other people can take up to 6 months. And that's the bulk of the people. It's like 60 or 70% of people are going to be at that, between 6 months and beyond. So it's important to just, stay engaged and stay in touch with those people. And it doesn't always have to be selling. It can be telling stories and having light call to actions and, just building your brand.
Okay. So on the call to actions piece, what's your take on this? Where like I've seen, and I know some people do this, where they'll have their main call to action with an email copy, and then in their signature, there'll be like, like maybe like something like you're like not quite sure where you need to start or something like that. Like here's option A, it's a free option. Here's option B, it's like a mid-tier option. Here's option C, it's a high-tier option. It's like that would be something that you would say just confuses people.
When you put it in the signature like that, I've seen it done a lot, and I've actually done it. I would just say don't do it for every email. So say if you're sending, 4 emails a week, put it in 2 emails or 1 email a week. This way it keeps those options in the top of people's mind. And I mean, I've bought things off signatures that the person wasn't even selling, and I've like went in like, oh yeah, I remember that he had that in his signature. Let me go get that program, because all of a sudden that problem came up for me. And then I thought, oh, that's the solution. He has that in that course in his email signature, So I think that is a good tactic, but just as far as in the email text, keep it to one call to action. And then you can have those options, but just not every email that you send. That's what my recommendation would be.
Okay, that makes sense. And then you're saying like give it a good 6 months before you make any kind of like drastic changes to your approach.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's just continual, it's just continual being top of mind, and really you're working on changing people's beliefs. It's like there's objections, like like in a sales call that people have about buying something or joining something. And in those emails, you deal with those objections and you tell stories about them, and you use testimonials. You talk about, Susie Joe that, gained the muscle that she wanted, or, fixed her knee, and you have a testimonial from her in there. And then all of a sudden, when someone said, oh, well, you can't fix your knee at a gym, right? And then all of a sudden, and they have a hurt knee, then all of a sudden they see that, oh, you can do that. Someone actually has done that at this gym. Then it clicks. And then they're on the phone going, oh, all right. Hey, I heard that, so-and-so got help with their knee. Is that something that you can do for me and that you can help me out with? So it's like, a lot of it is overcoming objections, but it has to be through an entertaining and engaging way. You don't want to just come in and say like, well, you can fix your knee. Like people aren't going to engage with that content.
Yeah.
No,
definitely. And I think it's also like kind of like to what you're saying too, is like, you never know exactly when someone's obviously going to be in the frame of mind to buy or take action. And like you said, like you have to constantly be top of mind for them. Because, I mean, that's obviously something we don't control. I mean, it could take someone 30 days. It can take someone 6 months to get to that place where they're like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to move forward. And then kind of back to what you said before too. I mean, yes, of course, there's the sleazy methods where you can intertwine to kind of alter that behavior, like that natural behavior of someone. But ultimately, that generally doesn't lead to a lasting client that stays with you for a long time, because I'm sure you guys even listening to this, I'm sure there's been times where you've been able to sell somebody into your service that was a difficult sell and probably shouldn't have, and they just come out to be like a difficult client, or they end up asking for a refund, or they cancel within like the first week or so. Whereas if like your rock star clients, it's almost like, where do I sign up and let me get going? And type of thing. And like, you don't know, you can't control that in that sense, but what you can control is how often you're in front of them, and making sure, like you said, like you're talking to them in an engaging way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right, that energy carries through. It's like from the first time you engage with them till they sign up, till either they quit because they had a bad experience, or they're with you for 10 years. Like that initiation energy, whatever it is, if it's your lead magnet or they get on your email list, however that will carry all the way straight through from the sales conversation to their experience. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I've definitely bought products that it was not a good sell and I wasn't happy and I was out of there, and I didn't buy again. And then the people that, I did have a good experience buying from, those are the people that I go to. That's it. I'm like, I trust them. They take care of me. They, solve my problems. So I'm going to go back to them. It's
Definitely.
like, it's pretty simple, but I think we make it more confusing. And like I said earlier, it spurs from that, not wanting to be open, honest, vulnerable, and real about being human and who we are. That creates all these different marketing methods that are, like not good for people, or they create kind of bad business models from, because they're, forcing people into things and making people not really feel great about it.
Definitely. I mean, there's enough things to not feel great about already, so we don't need to add to it. It's like,
Totally, totally.
it's not something you want your business being associated with.
Right.
um, but I think that was great to get like some tactics behind it of like how to actually go about this. And like I mentioned, we'll definitely be sure to have that linked in the show notes as well, so you guys can easily grab that there to constantly refer to it if you need to. But as we work towards wrapping up the conversation, I always like to end with a kind of like a message that you want to share, in this case, obviously with other gym owners, that you feel like they need to hear, whether it's advice, words of encouragement. Like if a gym owner came to you with help with their marketing message, like what do you feel like would be most impactful for them to hear?
I think, for gym owners, and people in the health and wellness field, is like, the services that you offer have extreme value, and don't ever undersell yourself. Like, even if you're just starting out, charge market rates. Like, even if you're new to it, and if someone else is, been in it for 10 years and is still just charging, baseline market rates, don't be afraid to be like, well, they're, charging 75 an hour and they've been in it for 10 years. It's like, no, you deserve the market rate right off the bat, because you've been trained, you're a professional, and you know what you're doing. And then only go up from there. Don't worry about what other people are doing, and just always know that your service has tremendous value and impact on people's lives in the most important ways, the things that we care about the most, which is our health, and our happiness. So I would say, just for gym owners, is never forget that impact that you have, and then step into your marketing and be confident and go, what we offer is awesome, and we're changing people's lives, and we deserve to put ourselves out there, and that's it, and do it.
Maybe from Dylan himself. But that is so true. I mean, your confidence like ripples through everything, and obviously if your pricing doesn't represent the value that you're bringing, then that shows a lack of confidence in the product and the service, and that's going to make people question you.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, what's going on here? That like I'm not sure, and that's also that in itself is going to attract a different type of person, or push away a different type of person.
Completely.
So I think that's some solid, sound advice that I hope you guys take to heart. And I think it's a great way, obviously, to wrap up this great conversation that we've been having. And I just want to take a moment, obviously, Dylan, to thank you so much for your time and your dedication to your craft in itself, because obviously it's helping so many people.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. It's been really great to be here, and I love just being on air in a sense, and being able to, just share, what I'm doing and what I think is important for the marketing community in general. Yeah. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, and on that note, like, if someone wants to continue this conversation with you and has more questions for you in the marketing space and copywriting, where would be the best place for them to connect with you?
Yep. It's just www.thegenuinecopywriter.com. And they can sign up for my email list. So I have a lot of really funny, weird, goofy emails on there, but also a lot of value. And then there's an application on my on one of my pages where they can, sign up to work for me and see if we're a good fit. So yeah.
Awesome. And if you're driving or working out while you're listening to this, don't worry. We'll have that in the show notes as well, so you can easily connect with Dylan, and you don't have to would be one more thing you have to remember. So you'll be easily able to access him there. And of course, also want to thank you, the listener. Without you, obviously, we wouldn't have a show. So, and I'm happy that you are looking for ways and resources to grow your business. That's fantastic and something that we should all be doing. And now, most importantly, I hope you take what you've learned from this conversation and apply it, because that's where the true value is, in the application of it. And with that being said, I look forward to having you join us on the next episode of the Fitness Business Freedom Podcast. Thank you so much, and take care. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode on the Fitness Business Freedom Show. On behalf of Fitness Revolution and myself, we are thrilled you are looking for ways and resources to move your business forward, and we are honored to be that source for you. If you would like to receive more business building support from us, be sure to head over to the show notes and join our subscriber list and stay on top of all the industry insights that matter most to you. Now, before I close out today's show, if you found this episode beneficial in any way, I just ask you to leave us a simple review to help other gym owners find us and discover this show. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next episode of the Fitness Business Freedom Show.